Welcome to Inside the Skev, and I'm your host, Aaron Masliansky. Today, I bring you a return guest, Len Joy. He's an author. He lives in Skevanston. He lives near a house I just sold recently and got to see him when I was selling that house, which was cool. And today, we're going to be talking about his new book, and it is a really interesting book. It's called Dry Heat. It's a thriller, and I'll give you a little bit of the synopsis of it, the back of the book. Dry Heat is a crime novel about a boy who loses everything but his heart. The day All-American Joey Blade turns 18, he learns his ex-girlfriend is pregnant, is betrayed by his new girlfriend, and is arrested for the attempted murder of 2 police officers. Then things get bad. Joey is charged with attempted murder and released on bail. TJ is nowhere to be found, and when Joey discovers that Mallory's father is pressuring her to terminate the pregnancy, Joey has to remain free to prevent that from happening. In desperation, he reaches out to a notorious gang leader, Chico Torres, who he met in jail for helping locating TJ. When Joey is offered a deal, his freedom in exchange for his cooperation in nailing Chico, he faces a decision that will change the course of his life and Mallory's. My God, there's a lot going on in there. How did you come up with this story?
Well, it's inspired by a actual event. It's not a true story in any sense, but I used to work and live in Phoenix, or I commuted back and forth from Evanston for 15 years. I had an engine rebuilding company there, and it was in the 90s basically. And one of the women who worked for me, who was my key employee, her son was in he was 18 and he was driving with a bunch of kids doing stuff he shouldn't have been doing, sort of hot rodding on the highway, and they got in a car duel with another car, and one of the kids in the car fired a gun at the other car, and it turned out that was an off-duty policeman. Now, he wasn't doing the right thing, obviously. He was off-duty and fooling around, but they arrested the kids in the car. My friend's son was the only one who was 18, and he was charged with attempted murder of a police officer, which is a very serious felony, obviously. Yeah. And I can still remember the day when, this was going on for like 6 months, like he was getting ready for trial, and his mother and father went in to court with him for a pre-trial meeting, and he was offered the choice: you either go to trial, and if you lose, you could be sentenced to 20 years in jail, or you take a 3-year deal right now. And that just struck me like such an agonizing decision to have to make, either as a young person or for the parents. Oh yeah. And they took the deal, and obviously it changed the course of his life dramatically. Instead of going to college, he went to prison. Now he's long out, and he's recovered to the sense. And in fact, it was sort of gratifying when I had the book launch. His mother was there, and she also had helped me quite a bit with some of the information about what it was like to go to prison and like visit people in prison and stuff. So yeah. So that was that incident was sort of what I carried. I thought about as I was. And 20 years later, I wrote the book with that as an inspiration.
Did you ever speak to her son?
I've given him the book. I spoke to him. I knew him before he went to jail. I don't think I've ever talked to him since then. But she gave him a copy of the book, and I mean to talk to her. Just had her birthday. I was going to call her and see it because I gave it to her in the spring if he's had a chance to read it and what they thought.
That'd be interesting to hear what he has to say. And the real story of taking the deal versus your book is a little different. Yes. Where Joey, who is the main character, he decides to fight it, and he really, one thing after another, he just opens up the onion of disappointment and
bad
horror.
Decisions.
Bad decisions. It's just, he's an 18-year-old kid. But
right.
It's just, you feel for him. It's like, I can't believe this is happening. He's a football star, and then he just gets this girl, his friend, pregnant, and turns out she's underage.
I always thought of Joey. I don't know if people are familiar with The Separate Piece, the novel from. It was one of those novels you read if you didn't read Catcher in the Rye growing up when I was a kid, and it's got a character named Phineas, and he's just a golden boy, and he's resented by the narrator, but it turns out the resentment's not true because he's just a really pure, decent person, and that's sort of how I see Joey. He's like an innocent, like too innocent in the first part, anyways, where he's just trying to do what's right, but always making the wrong decision.
Yeah, he is. I mean, even as he's lucky that in some respect that his friend who he gets pregnant, she helps him out and whatnot. I don't know how much I want to give away in the book, but I think it's important. It's interesting to discuss with the author here, some of the aspects of it. But he, I think people have a soft spot for him, but then he's treated pretty brutally as he goes through the story.
Yeah, I mean, I had also a lot of help from my lawyer friend who's used to courtroom procedures and trials, and there's the system will really grind you down. I mean, you don't have a lot of options, and I think there is a fairly lengthy courtroom scene in there, and it's pretty realistic as to what it's like for a defendant.
Is that taken from the information you got from your friend who's a lawyer?
Yes. Yeah. Nothing to do with the actual case because there wasn't any trial. They just, they just whisked him off to jail. But the process of being a defendant and what, and how the trials work and jury selection and everything is I had a lot of help with that from my attorney.
Yeah. I've been a part of a jury selection where I've had to do jury duty and going through that and kind of for a few minutes or a day. That was about it. But it seemed accurate to what I saw. Now, there's a lot to it that have to do with the criminal gangs that are in Phoenix area. Where did that come from? I mean, is that actual information? Are those real characters?
They're not real characters. They are real gangs. And I did the usual Wikipedia research, and I know gangs are prevalent in all areas, all urban areas, and particularly in Phoenix. And they have, the Mexican national gangs are especially strong there. And I just tried, I had them going into jail, and you try to, when you're writing a story, like I'm trying to figure out challenges for the character, and this came up with this Chico Torres, who I really enjoyed writing about because I find him sort of a noble bad guy.
Yeah, he is. You like him.
Yeah, I mean that's always the challenge. I mean, it's so easy to write a character that's just like unlikable and stuff, but to have a guy who does a lot of bad things, but you can still, create empathy for him. I think that's a fun challenge as a writer to do that.
Hey everyone, just want to take a quick break here. This is Aaron. Want to wish you all a happy holiday season. Hope you had a happy Thanksgiving, and also give you a shameless plug for myself. If you're looking for real estate in the area, Chicagoland area, I'm your guy. If you want to get a really awesome present for your significant other and buy them a house, well, when's a better time to do it than now? So reach out to me. I'm a realtor at Dreamtown Realty here in Evanston. You could reach me at aaron@skevanston.com. Go to skevanston.com, see everything about real estate there. And now back to the show. Recently I went to the Auditorium Theater. They had The Godfather being played on the screen with the Chicago Philharmonic Orchestra playing the music. It was an amazing experience. If you get the opportunity to go down there, they're doing it for other movies too. Take the opportunity. But I got to watch The Godfather again, and it's similar where you look at like the criminal gangs and Don Corleone and how that translates to somebody like Chico Torres, where Don Corleone was helping the community in many ways. obviously he was up to some criminal activity,
Right.
but you have you almost you like him, like you're rooting for him, and you feel sad when
Right.
bad things happen to him and his family.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean that's the story with Chico Torres. I mean, you try to give him a background to explain some of what why he's the way he is, but I enjoyed developing that conflict and bringing it in. The banker in the story is a real person.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Is it somebody that you dealt with personally?
Yes, he was somebody. I shouldn't say he's a real person. He's a fictional character. but he was part of my experience in Phoenix. It wasn't as positive as I would have liked.
Yeah. Now, you look at what happened in the engine shop and the relationship that Joey's father has with Chico Torres, as we learn about, and getting a lot of the equipment and stuff. Is that something that's just really prevalent within that industry?
I don't think so. I think that's pretty much a lot of fiction on my part. I knew the core business. I mean, we had that, cores, which I assume is probably sort of an obscure topic for most people. But like in the engine remanufacturing business, you have to buy engine cores and engine parts to remanufacture the engine. So that's, core suppliers were always an important part of our equation, and they had different backgrounds, I guess. So,
Yeah.
And I just created a way to, I wanted, when you have these subplots and stuff, try to bring it all together in an interesting fashion, and create a plausible situation legally. I mean, in terms of some of the challenges that the company was facing and Joey was facing, and putting Joey in this bind where he has to choose basically between, maybe an easy course where he could be free versus something that would put his family at risk. And that, I think, shows part of sort of Joey's nobility, is that, he won't sell out his father. I mean, there's a theme through the book, and through a lot of my books, is like, sort of my characters, they have a value for being stand-up people. They don't want to desert their friends. They have a lot of loyalty.
Yeah.
Sometimes to their detriment.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he could have gotten out easy. If he just wouldn't have saved TJ, it would have been fine. There wouldn't be a book.
Right.
But but when you're looking at like the engine shop and like how the salesmen have to sell the new engines and everything, I had to take my car for service yesterday, and I'm like, oh, I hope they're not going to screw me over. But I like how you took Chico from his role in the gang and everything, and then he becomes what, a hard money lender? Is that essentially
Yes,
what they are?
Right.
And I mean, and they make it almost, I mean, not Chico, but the other lender, it makes it almost impossible to run a business and how it's done. I mean, so you say that somebody who's like a real person, is that something you dealt with? I mean, how did you just curious, how did you get involved with an engine shop in Phoenix?
Yeah, well, I worked for U.S. Gypsum here for 13 years, and I wanted to buy a company from them. I was in like strategic planning, acquisitions, and we were selling businesses. I wanted to buy one. Put together nice. This is like the late '80s, a long time ago when you could do this, and I was unsuccessful. I mean, they sort of were not interested in selling to one of their own. So I left the company and I went looking for a business, and I found this business in Phoenix where my brother-in-law lived, and he was an engineer and a smart manufacturing guy, and so we didn't know all the stuff we didn't know, and so we bought the business, and we ran it for 15 years. I did all the sales and marketing and finance, and he did the manufacturing, and it was just a challenge all the time. We had EPA investigation. Like an employee would get fired and accuse us of dumping solvent down the drain and stuff. I mean, all fabrications and things. But we had to deal with those kind of things. We had an INS. 2 years after we arrived, we had an INS audit, and we discovered we were growing like crazy, and we discovered that we had over 100 illegal aliens.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we have a different experience. The INS treated us very fairly. I mean, the agent, he knew if, that would wipe us out. And he just said, when we come back, you need to have this fixed.
Yeah.
And it was a really devastating blow to the company. It was one really we never really recovered from. I mean, we were struggling for years, because of, some of the losses. But, they gave us a chance. And I have to say, it's a different experience than you read about a lot in the paper, but yeah, all those things. That's what, as a result of that, we had to borrow money, and I got involved with this asset-based lender, and they're used to, they have to be tough, and they're not like commercial bankers.
No.
They're different.
Yeah, and they position themselves to take over the company.
Yeah, I mean, they have the ideas that they get liens on everything, and that's important.
Yeah, I mean, and some of the characters, though, that worked at the shop, are they similar to real people as well?
I think
Mallory's father or anything like that?
Joey's father is very much modeled after a character, the owner of a competitor who actually lived in Philadelphia, a really great guy. And
did he have the aqua velvet?
I think he did have some of that. I think came up there, he was just one of those hard on the sleeve guys that was bombastic and loud, and just people loved him. I mean, if you either loved him or hated him, but he would have difficulty in today's world, but in that era, I mean, he was a good guy, and I really I wanted to make Dutch, like with all his flaws, as someone that people cared for.
Yeah. No, you really just, you develop those characters so much. You really kind of you feel like you're there with them, and just the whole situation with Mallory, the girlfriend. I mean, you touch on a lot of different things, and it's also, I mean, it gets very detailed, obviously, and it could be graphic, but it's interesting to just see the dynamic there, and like you play with all these different things that are going on in societal, qualms or issues that are going on.
Yeah, I mean, Mallory, I thought was like a precocious, like 15-year-old.
Yeah, a kid.
It's like, but she had a lot more. She was much more with it than Joey. I mean, as far as what the real world was like, and more practical. And I liked writing. I mean, I like all my characters, but Mallory is one of my favorites.
Yeah. No, I think all those characters are so interesting, and one that I found really fun to see was Anita, because. That was one that you tie to another book that you have, Everyone Dies Famous, because she's a character that's married to this famous real estate developer who then passes away, and she moves out to Phoenix.
Yeah, I'm glad you picked that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just, I do that for fun. Nobody has to know that, but it was, that way, okay, this is 20 years later, so Anita was like in her 20s, now she's in her 40s or something, but and she was another character I really enjoyed, so I kept her around to use her again, and I can visualize her pretty well as one of those wealthy widowed women living in nice life in Scottsdale or someplace.
Yeah. No, I could definitely see that. And she becomes an important character. Again, I don't want to give away everything in the book. Everyone should read the book. But she's a really interesting character that has a lot of power. And you don't really realize it at first. You think it's just, I kind of got the hint when it's the third time he's going to fix a garage door.
Yeah. It's not supposed to be a real surprise.
No, it's not a real surprise. But this is when Joey's out of jail and he's working for his friend, and he goes up but she becomes an instrumental character, and they all just kind of weave together, even how they get older. And it's just, I love how you go back and forth in the timeline, because it's just, you get to see the differences of what happens what time does to people, and it allows the characters to grow and change, even if we're not hearing of everything that they've done in the past. Every day, you can see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a 14-year gap between the first section and the second section, and I didn't want to write a prison novel because there's people who've done a lot better job at that, but I did want to put some, use flashbacks to, at least share some of that time that Joey's in prison. So it was that was very useful, having that, the help of my friend. Talking about what it was like visiting her son in prison. It was it's not quite like they convey in the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did she say it's like?
It's just, they're such regimens. Like if you miss, like if you're late you show up at the wrong time, you're not allowed in. You can't have a wire in your bra, like all these things you didn't think about, like as it's just, and it's all, I'm sure, developed because of all the, the problems they encounter. But it's extremely, for someone to visit every week is you have to appreciate that that's a real commitment of time and emotional energy to do that.
Yeah, I can imagine. I don't want to experience ever.
No.
God, no. I mean, so we're sitting here. We're able to talk now. The first time we spoke was in probably about 2 years ago, late 2020. So anyone, you can go back and listen to the episode where I had Len on previously. But this is so nice to be able to sit here.
I know, in person.
In person, yeah.
No more Zoom. Yes.
I remember us talking about, what's going to be like in the future and whatnot. And, you're trying to promote that book now. What is it like at this point to be able to promote Dry Heat? Is it a better experience for you? What have you been up to?
Well, I think I've learned a lot. And, the book is published by BQB Publishing. It is available. Ingram distributes it. So, I think Bookends and Beginnings, they should have it.
Yeah.
Or, they won't have it on the shelf, I'm sure, but if you went there, you could buy it.
Sure. Or Amazon or anywhere else.
But Amazon is, obviously the place where I focus my efforts, because the small publishers, they can't do an awful lot for you in marketing, but, I've developed an email marketing list, and I'm always looking for more people to add to it as I promote all the books I have through email and also through social media. I have an assistant who just does, we advertise continuously on Facebook and Amazon. And, I send out a monthly newsletter, and I try to review other, fellow indie authors, what I would call
I've seen that. Yeah, I love that.
So that, it's not just me, but, like my friends or people who I find a book I really like, I'll put it out there so that there's some additional benefit to being on the newsletter. So anybody who's interested, I'm always welcome to get more people on the letter.
Where do you sign up for the newsletter?
If you go to my website, lenjoybooks.com, there should be a button there that says, click on that, and it'll, I'll get a message and I'll add you to the list.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you're up to a lot. I know we just talked a lot about this book, and I want to ask you to read an excerpt in just a minute, but I mean, just so people know who you are, I find you so fascinating. You had this business, and then you became an author. You're also just an incredible athlete. I mean, what has gone on the past couple of years in your athletic career?
Yeah, I think I'm more like I've lasted a long time. I'm a triathlete, and as you get into older age groups, there's fewer of us, so I get to compete. I'm really fortunate. I compete with Team USA, and we get to go, in the spring. I'm going to, I'll say this wrong, Ibiza.
Sure.
For
Ibiza.
It's right in the middle of the Mediterranean, I guess. I looked that up. And, we've been to Australia and to Pontevedra, Spain, and to Canada. So we've had a lot of opportunities to it's another way to travel and get meet other athletes. And one thing there aren't a lot of, like, I'm 70, it's a lot of 70-year-old competing. So the ones that are, though, are really good. I mean, they're better than me. I mean,
are they better than you?
Yeah, there's some really, really exceptional guys. They've done it a lot longer and stuff. But I'm average. But
you're
average
in terrific shape. I mean, my God.
So it's really fun to do, and you can appreciate like how some of these guys do this is amazing. And watching the younger people, like I just did a half Ironman in Michigan in the fall, and like we watch. It takes me about 45 minutes to do the swim, and I watch like some of the people are coming out of the water in 24 minutes and stuff.
Oh my God,
they're really fast. So it's fun to watch.
It's inspiring.
Yeah.
And some people think, it's luck, and it's also the habits that you have, I'm sure, to continue what you're doing.
Yeah, you have to be lucky to, or have the, genetically a body that didn't break down or something. That's something that's hard to avoid. But yeah, I found that training for triathletes and triathlons and writing are very complementary. I mean, they're both like a novel. You go to some of my workshops, they say, this is hard, and it's not hard really. It's just it's a big project. It's not harder than writing short stories. It's just that you have to, you have to have a plan, and you have to be able to, show up every day and work at it, and it takes longer, and you have to have, I look at it as like I'll run out of time before I run out of ideas for stories. I mean, there's just having 20 years in the engine business. I could probably write 5 novels just on life in the blue collar world, which is what I try to write about.
Yeah, all your stories are about small towns,
yes,
blue collar people, and do you write every day?
I do something every day. I sometimes it wouldn't be more words, although I do reviews, and usually I do something. It's like I would say I've spent a couple hours in the writing process. A lot of I do a lot of revising. So like now I'm on this new novel I'm working on. I finished it. It wasn't any good. I started it again, and I'm almost like 2/3 of the way through there, and then I had an idea on how to fix some things that were troubling me in the plot. So now I'm going back and sort of reading what I've written and sort of seeing how I can. It's sort of like you make this rough draft, and now you're trying to smooth it off and stitch it together and make it look seamless. So I enjoy it. It's sort of like puzzle, working on a puzzle and stuff. So it's doing stuff every day.
It almost makes you rewrite the entire story so everything fits.
Sometimes you have. I mean, that's the problem. You don't want to face it, but you pull out that one thread and everything comes apart.
Oh, God. But it hopefully becomes a better better at the end.
It will be.
What is the name of that new book that you're writing? Is it finalized yet?
Yeah. Freedom's Just Another Word. I borrowed it from Chris Christopherson. And Janis Joplin, but he wrote the song.
And what is it about? What's the story like? Any of these characters?
No. It's the story of and I'm writing this. It's taking place in Skokie and Evanston.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm moving.
Local.
I'm moving home.
Yeah.
Gonna burn all those bridges now. It's like,
oh, God.
No, I'm.
Hope there's not a real estate agent podcaster in there.
It's the story of a liberal columnist for the Chicago Tribune. I'll probably have to change the Tribune, but for now it's the Chicago Tribune, who's not woke enough, and he's struggling to hold on to his job. And it's 2018, it's before COVID, and he has a ex-wife who's a right to life activist, and he has a 30-something-year-old daughter, teaches at Evanston Township High School, and she's pregnant and wants an abortion. And so I have a lot of hot buttons, and like mixing it up. Like he's stuck between these sort of far left, far right, and he also has he was a famous columnist 20 years ago. He had a love child with his intern, she's dead when the story starts, but his son is 20 years old, and he's helping him build his rib business in Chicago. So he has some issues too.
Sounds like a lot.
It's a mess. It sounds like a mess. I know I don't have a good pitch for it yet, but it's
well,
it'll come together.
I am confident that it'll all come together. I mean, for what you have in Dry Heat and Everyone Dies Famous, there's a lot of different things going on in all these, and they do all come together. And you don't, as a reader, I couldn't tell that like you had to bring it all together or whatnot.
Yeah, sometimes that's one of the biggest challenges is trying to make all the subplots make some sense, and that's what I'm working on now.
Well, I'm sure you'll get there. And I mean, and these books are it's a fast read. It's just because you don't want to put it down. I mean, I think in two sittings I finished it. So it's wonderful. And just to remind everyone, it's called Dry Heat. Now, I want to ask you if you want to read an excerpt of the book.
Yeah, I would be happy to. I've prepared something. I looked at it. It's like it's hard to read. I understand. Like I listening to first people to follow what's going on.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to give the opening scene in the first chapter, and then I got to jump to the second chapter, and I'll try to explain a little bit what's going on. It's about 5 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
Stay tuned, everybody. Please.
Chapter 1. 3 p.m. Saturday, November 20th, 1999, Roadrunner Park, Phoenix. The gangs were always stealing the nylon basketball nets, so the park director had replaced them with galvanized steel chain, which rattled obnoxiously on every bad shot. Joey frowned as his jump shot clanked off the front rim. "Your shot sucks today, Joey Blade," Mallory said as she bounced the ball back to him. "Your boobs are distracting me. Maybe it's time you started wearing a bra." Blonde with a pixie cut that framed her cute little girl face, Mallory could have passed for a 12-year-old if it hadn't been for her huge breasts. She was 15, 3 years younger than Joey, and they had been playground buddies for 10 years. She lived with her creepy father in a run-down brick house a block away and escaped to the park most afternoons. "Come on, concentrate, Mr. All-American." She lifted up her sweatshirt, flashing him as he took his next shot, an air ball. "Ah!" Joey chased after the errant shot, hip-checking Mallory as he grabbed the ball. He dribbled out to the corner and swished a turnaround jumper. Yes, no distraction that time. He pumped his fist. Mallory smirked. "Better get used to it. You'll have plenty of distractions when you're in La La Land next week." La La Land. Joey was out of time. He had to make a decision about his trip to USC, and he had to make it now. He clanked another free throw off the rim. "What's wrong, Joey?" "Dutch." Mallory scowled as she bounced the ball back to him. She knew what Joey's dad was like. Dutch Blade was an unfiltered, heart-on-his-sleeve guy. He could choose someone out one moment and be hugging them the next. "He doesn't want you following in the immortal footsteps of O.J.? "My dad thinks anyone who goes to California just wants to be a movie star." Mallory tilted her head and squinted at him. "You're pretty cute with that curly hair and those girly eyelashes. I could definitely see you in the movies." "Shut up, Mallory. This is serious." "So your big problem is deciding between a free education in California or Arizona." Mallory arched her eyebrows, suggesting that was the kind of problem most people would love to have. Then she grinned and said, "You want to come over to my place for a glass of iced tea?" "Iced tea sounds great," Joey said. Okay, they go over to Mallory's house and some stuff happens. 6 weeks later, Chapter 2, Shadow Mountain High School, Phoenix, Arizona. It's 8 p.m. Friday, December 31st, 1999, the end of the millennium. It's Joey's birthday. He's just accepted a full-ride scholarship to University of Arizona, and he has a hot girlfriend, Wendy Chang, and he is driven over to this bonfire at the high school. As the scene opens, Wendy has just left Joey to talk to her old boyfriend about something. Joey Blade wasn't part of Wendy's long-term plan, but that was okay with Joey. Wendy would be a perfect end-of-the-school-year girlfriend. In the fall, she'd go east, and Joey would head down to Tucson. He didn't need to hassle her if she wanted to gossip with Mr. Too Cool. After the bonfire, some of Wendy's preppy friends were having a party at Darville's home. His parents were in Cabo for the new year. Joey would have preferred making out over at Squaw Peak. It was a typical Phoenix winter night. Once the sun went down, the temperature dropped quickly. Lua had managed to organize the fire builders, and the dark, clear sky was now dotted with sparks. Joey shivered. He should have worn something more than his flannel shirt, but all he had was his varsity letter jacket. He was so proud of that jacket when he earned it as a freshman, but now he felt silly wearing it. Maybe that was Wendy's influence. She wasn't into sports. The wind was whipping up, and he was getting cold. He was about to get up and move closer to the fire when he spotted Mallory walking toward him. Damn. When he started dating Wendy, Joey forgot about everything else. He should have at least called Mallory. Now, as she headed toward him, he felt like a shit. Mallory looked different, serious. She sat down on the bale next to him, close. The heat of her body took the edge off the chill Joey was feeling. I saw your girlfriend leave you to go talk with her old boyfriend. She was staring at the fire, not looking at him. Yeah, they're still friends. Like you and me, we're still friends, right? He thought. She was still staring at the fire, not looking at him. I'm pregnant. A simple declaration, delivered as information, not an accusation. Joey's throat tightened like some invisible specter was choking him. Even if he had known what he wanted to say, he wouldn't have been able to get the words out. He hesitantly lifted his hand and covered Mallory's hand that was resting on her thigh. What? Mallory flipped her hand over and squeezed his hand. I'm keeping the baby. I don't want anything from you. I'm not telling anyone that you're the father. I just wanted to let you know you have a right. A father, a baby. You have to tell someone, he said. I can help. Mallory jumped up from the bale. If you tell your parents, my father will find out, and he will make trouble. Are you sure? Mallory looked fierce, not angry. He's an evil man, she said, her voice level but determined. I will never tell him. Now go enjoy your bonfire and your beautiful girlfriend. Everything will be fine. She turned and walked quickly away toward the parking lot without giving Joey a chance to say anything more.
Yeah, everything will be fine, huh?
She hopes. And then stuff happens.
Yeah, then everything, the world starts to unwind. I mean, yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, it's just so much can happen to one person and so many people. I mean, I guess that's life, right?
Yeah, and you try to condense it and make it interesting. So that's my job.
Yeah. No, you did it terrifically here. I mean, there's so much to this book. It's if you have a reader who you need to get a gift for, I think this could be a great book to get as well.
Yes, and it is an audio book, and I would, if anybody doesn't like to read and likes to listen to the audiobooks, I'm really pleased with the audio. The guy who did the audio on it. I mean, it's not easy to do all those different voices, like have a guy do a woman's voice and stuff. And I think he did a great job. So.
Is he the same person who did Everyone Dies Famous?
No, because those are both more senior, like the characters are in both American Pastime and Everyone Dies Famous. I mean, I got a guy from Missouri to do it, so it's more,
more Midwest,
more Midwestern. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this narrator has a younger voice, and it's a story of a younger person, so I think it works well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Len, I think this is, keep writing. I want to read the Skokie and Evanston one. That's going to be interesting.
Okay.
And we'll come back on and talk about that book when it's out as well.
All right, great.
Yeah.
Hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon. But no, I appreciate you coming on here talking about Dry Heat. Great book. And thank you for, bringing it to me and opening my eyes to your mind.
Hey, thank you very much for having me, Aaron.
You're welcome. Thanks for listening, everyone.